Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome back to Square Pegs. I am Jay, and it has been a minute since we have talked. It has been over a week since I have recorded anything because I have been sick. And I want to get back in the swing of it. I want to talk about video games. I want to talk to you about some of the things that I love. And I want you guys to enjoy it in the conversation and talk back to me about the things you love. But I don't want to talk about just video games today. Today I want to talk to you about superhero video games, specifically ones that you might have overlooked. And there is also one in particular on here that no one has ever overlooked that is a fan of video games, but you might not know. It is based on a comic book. We're going to kick things off right now on one of my personal favorite handheld devices, the Nintendo DS.
Thor God of Thunder has a lot of really good stuff going for it on the Nintendo DS. One, it's made by WayForward, so I'm kind of predisposed to liking it. They actually had a really good string where they were doing a whole lot of amazing licensed games when they were kind of like in between Shantae and Extreme Sports stuff. They would pump out these amazing licensed games. Like they were the guys that did the DuckTales remastered game. They did this Thor God of Thunder game. They did Batman Brave and the Bold on the Wii. They get it. They understand what they're doing. They make some great stuff. And this game right here is something that I really think is an ambitious take on not only the character of Thor, but the movie of Thor as well from the MCU. Because it tells the story of the film, and it does it admirably well. Like it feels like a Thor story or a Thor comic come to life. But what WayForward did is they used both screens, and they used it really effectively because the game didn't just go horizontal left to right like most platformers did. It actually went vertical across both screens. And that made for some really exciting and interesting gameplay elements. I thought it was a fantastic title. Still think it's a fantastic title if I'm being fair. And if you haven't played it, you should, because I think a lot of folks overlooked this one. And I know this one got overlooked by a lot of folks because I'm pretty sure it went on clearance prices like a week after it launched. This is Guardians of the Galaxy on the Xbox Series X. I was shocked that this one went away as quickly as it did because every review I read of it gave it a positive, glowing review, but people just didn't care. They got burned by the Avengers game. Another one I actually liked, by the way. I maintain that has some of the best Avengers writing ever in a single-player campaign. But Guardians of the Galaxy here is something that had ambitious gameplay with some really fun just kind of mixes of what you got from the comics as well as what you saw in the MCU movies. So there was the addition of the mixtapes where you were able to kind of rally your characters around you and like form up like Voltron and play this awesome like 80s power ballad, and your characters would get all these amazing superpowers. You'd be able to inspire the other Guardians to fight, and you're playing as Star-Lord, which I thought I wasn't going to like, but I actually really enjoyed because it was kind of neat to just kind of see him in the leadership role of taking charge and taking care of his fellow Guardians. It was pretty cool. The writing in the game is spectacular. There's some really neat and nuanced conversation aspects here, which is a little bit like Mass Effect, where your answers will influence the way that the story lays out, and I really, really liked that. One of my favorite games on the series, like seriously, it's such a brilliantly designed title, and it was such a shocker to get it for as cheap as I did. This is the collector's edition that I own, and I got it for like $20 on Amazon. I strongly urge folks to play this one because I know so many people skipped it because they did get burned on Avengers, but you're missing out. This one's amazing. I really do like kind of every iteration of Captain America and the Avengers, whether it's the arcade original, the kind of hackneyed version that we got on home consoles on the Genesis and the SNES, but I think my favorite is actually the NES release because it's just a great game. And it doesn't try to be something it's not. Like, it doesn't try to shoehorn a beat-em-up experience into it. It just makes itself a run-and-gun platform where you can play as Hawkeye or Cap. There's a really neat kind of like Bionic Commando level system going on here where you have an overall world map where you have to pick what level you're going to go to. Which character you play depends on what level you pick. And the gameplay is solid. Like, it's really fun. There's a bunch of enemies to fight, a lot of classic Marvel villains, a lot of mooks as well. So you have plenty of nameless and faceless bad guys to beat up. There's different like power-ups and things you're able to find that are really interesting and just things that'll kind of run the score up. It's just a really fun game. I really do appreciate kind of games like this that kind of tie in to an overall experience that people are familiar with and people know, like from the arcades or from the Super Nintendo, but they're not afraid to do their own thing. And I really do like that Captain the Avengers did that on the NES. I realize that saying any Arkham game being underrated and overlooked is kind of stupid because they're all thought of fondly now, but when Arkham Origins launched, it was not. It was something that a lot of people thought was going to be terrible because it wasn't developed by Rocksteady, and when it launched, it stunk. It was bad. It had a lot of problems. It had a lot of bugs that shipped with it, and it wasn't until we had a lot of patches released, or Game of the Year editions, or Masterpiece editions, or whatever the Wii U one is called, the Armored Edition, something like that, where we really saw kind of the full concept of what Arkham Origins could be. And for me, it's one of my favorites. And I think it is my favorite Arkham game. And I think it's because I just love the concept of Batman fighting on Christmas Eve, and that feeling of Batman being in the winter. Like, that to me just feels like the animated series come to life. Just feels right. It's my favorite Batman Arkham game. What's yours? If I told you there was a direct line between Luigi's Mansion and Captain America Super Soldier, would you believe me? Well, it's true, because all of them were developed by Next Level Games, and you can really see that amazing gameplay attention to detail instilled from those wonderful Nintendo titles that Next Level has developed into Captain America Super Soldier. First off, you have incredible combat, wonderful kind of like a graphical element here where things will slow down a little bit when you go into these kind of like signature Cap acrobatic attacks and things like that. The physics of the shield are really well done. The gameplay is just solid from top to bottom. And as this is an MCU title, it does take use of the actors that were in the film. So people like Chris Evans, like Haley Atwell, they're going to show up in this game as well and reprise their roles, which I think is pretty awesome. It's a really fantastic game. It's really fun. This is one of the stronger, I think, home console Marvel games. Like, we had a string of like really terrible titles for a long time, and Sega was publishing them all. But Super Soldier's A-okay. You should really check it out. And kind of cool, these are both, this one on the PS3 and on the Xbox 360, stereoscopic 3D. So there's a really neat kind of bonus element in play here as well. This is one that my wife and I saw at a GameStop, and we kind of hemmed and hawed on it for a couple of years before we finally picked it up when it went on sale. This is DC Superhero Girls on the Nintendo Switch. It's a really good game. It is so much better than I expected it to be. Like, the character designs are excellent. It's based on the DC Superhero Girls animated series that was on Cartoon Network at the time. The characters are fun. They all have different abilities and different design work. There's different missions around the town that you're able to do, and some of them, involve buying things and kind of playing dress up, but some of them also involve just going out and beating the crap out of bad guys. It's a really fun mix of action, adventure, 3D platforming game, and a cozy game. Like, I don't really understand the mix that they got here, but it just works. Like, the game just lands. It's fun. I was shocked by this one. I know a lot of folks overlooked it. Like, I don't know anyone else that has actually ever played this one, so I love it. I think it's a really good game. You should check it out. A lot of people know Cadillacs and Dinosaurs because of the arcade game or the animated series, but it actually started in the black and white comic book Xenozoic Tales back in the mid-1980s. And this game on the Sega CD is absolutely fantastic. This is an on-rails shooter where you are driving the Cadillac and shooting the dinosaurs. I mean, the title of the game is right there, the title of the comic. And it's something that I love because it is such a wonderful interpretation and kind of embracing of the overall ridiculousness that is the concept of Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, and they make it into one of the best Sega CD games ever. It's an absolutely fantastic game that I just love. The arcade game is also great, by the way. It is a beat-em-up, though, so if you want a beat-em-up experience, find the arcade version, play it on MAME or something like that. But if you're looking for something that's a little bit different, that's a little bit crazier, and a lot more fun, and incredibly unforgiving, by the way, check out the one on Sega CD. We're going to split kind of two entries here from one of the most classic pulp heroes ever, the Phantom. The first game we're going to look at is Phantom 2040 on the SNES. This is a great platforming kind of beat-em-up, run-and-gun-esque game. I don't really know how to describe it other than that it's a platformer. And I really enjoy this one. This is the Phantom of the future, essentially. And it's kind of sad to think this is only 15 years away now, based on today's timeline. But it's a really quality game that is taking part of the Phantom property and just making it accessible, making it something new for people that have really never played the character or heard of the character before. Like, we had the Billy Zane movie, which came out, I want to say after this one released, but no one was really clamoring for the Phantom in the early 90s. And now recently on the Nintendo Switch, we had a game released featuring the Phantom that is a beat-em-up. And it was a little rough at the start, I'm not going to lie. The gameplay was a little stilted, a little rough, but there's been a lot of cleanup since then, and it's playing incredibly well. So if you're looking for a fun beat 'em up featuring classic pulp heroes like the Phantom, you've got two options. Well, you have one option here. You have the Switch version, which is a beat 'em up, and you also have the Phantom 2040 on the Super Nintendo, which is a really fun run and gun platformer. I will never stop singing the praises of Fantastic Four Flame On the Game Boy Advance because it is absolutely brilliant. It is legitimately one of the biggest surprises I have ever had from a video games monthly box. I was convinced this was going to be terrible when I saw it come out of the box. I had no idea or no inclination that something starring the Human Torch from one of the worst comic book movies ever made in the Fantastic Four, even though it was Chris Evans, our eventual Captain America, it was something I didn't think it was ever going to be any good. And what I got is one of the best action platformers I have ever played on the GBA. The gameplay is solid. It's fun. It's developed by Taurus Software, who did a lot of incredible Game Boy and Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance games starring licensed properties. And like the Invincible Iron Man on the GBA that everyone like sings the praises of, same company here. This game is so good. It is legitimately one of my favorite Game Boy Advance experiences. It is one of the best licensed games ever made, one of the best Marvel superhero games ever made, and it's just tucked away on the GBA and no one knows about it. I cannot urge you enough to find this game and play it. You will love it. This will probably put me in the minority, but I don't actually think that Green Lantern Rise of the Manhunters was a terrible video game. I know a lot of people kind of just were mixed on it. Like they saw some good parts, they saw some bad parts, but for me, I thought it took the best elements of an admittedly bad movie and made it into a fun video game. Like, you get Ryan Reynolds as Hal Jordan, and that works. Like, he was a good Hal. You get all of the characters from the film, but they're portrayed a little bit better. Like, they're not just kind of like one note like they were in the movie. They're a little bit more nuanced in the film. You're fighting the Manhunters, which are classic Green Lantern villains, and the gameplay is nice and varied. Like, you have shmup stages, which I think is pretty fun, and you also have on-foot kind of like 3D action-adventure game stages as well, which are really good. I actually really like this one. A lot of people don't care for it, but for me, I actually think it's pretty fun. And this is one that I overlooked for a long time as well, because, like I said, I didn't really care for the movie, so I didn't really have any interest in playing the video game, but I wanted to try this one out. I was hoping that the Nintendo versions would be good as well, but the Wii and the DS version aren't great. They are based on the animated series, or at least visually kind of based on the animated series, the Green Lantern animated series. Anyone remember that one? I actually really like that. But yeah, it just not as good. I do enjoy this 360 version, though. I think it's pretty fun. Batman Brave and the Bold is one of my favorite portrayals of the Caped Crusader of all time. I think it is a wonderful cartoon, and there were two quality video games made about Brave and the Bold by Way Forward. We've talked about the Wii version on the channel in the past numerous times. Today we're going to talk about the DS version, which I don't believe I've ever spoken about on the channel, and that's a shame because it is a fantastic game. To me, this feels very similar to the Adventures of Batman and Robin on the Super Nintendo. So it's presented in a 16-bit style. It's a side-scrolling platformer, beat 'em up, and it's incredibly well done. It still has the sense of humor that Brave and the Bold had, and it's developed by Way Forward. And we've already talked about them once on this countdown, on this video here, and you know if Way Forward's making a licensed game, chances are it's going to kick ass, and this one does. I really enjoy this one. I like all the different characters that are able to be played or be shown in the game. I think the enemies are varied. I think the bosses in the game are varied and fun. And it's just a quality title. And as a bonus, if you have the DS version and the Wii version, there's connectivity where you can actually control Batmite on the Wii version through the Nintendo DS. And that's pretty damn cool. Hey, look, another Way Forward game. I swear, there are more than just Way Forward titles on this list. This is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Danger of the Ooze. And I know for many people, the Ninja Turtles were introduced to them via the animated series, but it did start as a comic book from Mirage Studios, a mature comic book, and everything that we know and love about our favorite pizza-eating reptiles is because of that comic, and this is no different. Danger of the Ooze is based on the 2013 animated series, which is my personal favorite version of the Ninja Turtles. I thought it was the most true to what the characters could be. I think they felt like actual teenagers. They were goofy. They were silly. It was well designed. It was well animated. And this video game picks up on that. Like, it uses assets straight from the cartoon. It plays incredibly well. You're able to hot swap between the different turtles and use their different abilities and their different weapons as you wish. The gameplay is fun. It's a platforming beat 'em up, which is kind of what you would hope with a fun Ninja Turtles game. And the design work is just top-notch. All the voice actors are in place, all of the music is in place, the gameplay is really fun. It's not super varied, it can get a little bit repetitive, I won't lie to you, but for a game that I know a lot of people just bypassed because they're so drawn to that original 1980s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated series, you should play this one, because if you skipped it because of your affinity for that original series, you're really missing out. DuckTales, one of the single greatest NES games of all time, probably the signature experience for what people think of when they think of games that Capcom made featuring Disney characters on the NES. And yeah, it was originally based on a comic book. The animated series was based on the Uncle Scrooge comics from the 1940s by Carl Barks. Actually, I think it was the 1950s, now that I've said that, so I turn in my comic book historian card here if I got that wrong. That introduced Huey, Dewey, and Louie. It introduced Scrooge McDuck. It's literally one of my favorite kind of experiences, though, is reading those classic Carl Barks comics, because they're just amazing. If you haven't had the chance to do so, there are plenty of collected editions out there, and it is something that you will see kind of the roots of where DuckTales and Duckburg stemmed from, is in those books. I remember when I first discovered comics, it was the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collected editions from Mirage Studios. My stepfather had them. I read them when I was way too young. And it was something that I was just enraptured by and enthralled by. And that led to an adoration of the Tim Burton Batman film, of discovering the Batman 66 live-action series starring Adam West and Burt Ward, and just kind of expanding my horizons from there. I remember there was a store in Rhode Island called Ocean State Job Lot. It was a discount shop. And I remember walking in there one day and seeing an end cap just stacked to the gills with DC Comics starring Wally West as the Flash in his brand new series, the Justice League International, Justice League Europe. It was all these amazing books that I had never heard of, but I was just instantly drawn in. Let me know in the comments, please, what superhero video games do you think people have overlooked that they should be playing? I know a lot of folks are going to say things like the X-Men Legends series, and that's an awesome thing to nominate. One of my favorite video game franchises ever are X-Men Legends and the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games. But think a little bit more outside the box. Think along the lines of Cadillacs and Dinosaurs on the Sega CD. And what do you think about DuckTales being on here? Did you know that was based on a Carl Barks comic from the 1940s? I'd love to hear your input on that. Till next time, folks, I've been Jay. Thank you so much for being here and for spending a little bit of time with me today. Remember to play more games, stay square, and take care. I'll talk to you soon.